The Ghost Fleet of the Golden Gate, a saga of secret wartime science, sunken gold, and the birth of modern Silicon Valley. Imagine a secret that the U.S. Navy has guarded for over 80 years. Not a treasure map, but a chilling ledger of what was purposefully sacrificed. Over $1 billion in wartime technology, crates of industrial diamonds, and the chilling remains of a prototype atomic reactor, all deliberately sunk just outside the Golden Gate to keep them from falling into enemy hands. This is the story of how America, in the desperate shadows of World War II, gambled everything, including the future of its most advanced science, in a covert operation that laid the foundation for the prosperity of modern California and set the stage for the Cold War's greatest technological leap. Chapter 1: The Manhattan Project's Coastal Secret. The year is 1944. The air in Washington, D.C. is thick with humidity and the anxious energy of a nation at war. Yet, on the Pacific coast, specifically in the bustling, fog-laced port of San Francisco, a different kind of tension is brewing, one that involves neither troop movements nor rationing, but pure, terrifying science. The war in Europe is far from over, but the most brilliant and secretive minds in America are already playing a deadly chess game with the future. The prize, a weapon of unthinkable power. The project, the Manhattan Project. It is widely known that the project's primary facilities were deep inland at Oak Ridge, Tennessee, Hanford, Washington, and Los Alamos, New Mexico. What is not widely known is that San Francisco served as an essential covert staging area for the movement of critical materials, particularly highly enriched uranium, HEU, and specialized graphite moderator blocks destined for the massive gaseous diffusion plants and experimental reactors. The role of Treasure Island. Far from the glamorous image of today's tech hub, 1944 San Francisco was a fortified military city. Its central nerve center and the key to our story was Treasure Island Naval Station. Built for the 1939 World's Fair, by the war's peak it was a heavily guarded launch pad for troops and supplies heading to the Pacific Theater. But in a secluded, reinforced bunker beneath the island's northern pier, an entirely different kind of cargo was being processed. This was the temporary home of the A cargo, a classified shipment that dwarfed all others in its implications. It consisted of several hundred lead-lined containers, each bearing the simple yet terrifying stencil, R Unit, Special Cargo, handle with extreme caution. Inside these units were not only refined uranium compounds, but also the highly specialized and expensive equipment used to produce them. Electromagnetic separators, known as calatrons, highly sensitive monitoring devices, and, most critically, the raw materials for a unique prototype reactor core designed by a team reporting directly to J.R. Robert Oppenheimer. The true significance of this equipment was twofold. Its value. The sheer cost was staggering. The materials included nearly 20 tons of industrial-grade diamonds, essential for precision tooling and separation processes, and over $300 million, 1944 USD, in gold-based wiring and plating required for the massive electrical systems. Its danger. If captured, this material, or even the plans for the prototype reactor, would shave years off the Axis power's own nuclear research, potentially altering the war's outcome entirely. The German U-boat threat, Operation Drumbeat. In late 1944, intelligence reports reaching the desk of Fleet Admiral Ernest King painted a grim picture. German U-boats, initially believed to only be operating in the Atlantic, were now confirmed to be lurking off the coast of California. Operation Drumbeat, Paukenschlag, the U-boat campaign that once terrorized the eastern seaboard, had extended its reach. Specifically, a sophisticated long-range Type 9 D2 U-boat U-875 was suspected to be operating near the Channel Islands, conducting reconnaissance and, more alarmingly, hunting high-value targets. The fear was not just losing a ship. The fear was the strategic loss of the A cargo. On November 12, 1944, a catastrophic but unrelated engine room fire cripples the heavy transport vessel USS Prometheus, which was being ready to carry the A cargo through the Panama Canal to the East Coast. This forced a sudden change of plans. The A cargo, already assembled and sealed on Treasure Island, needed immediate deep-water transport, but no secure vessel was immediately available. The decision: Operation Golden Sacrifice. Admiral King, under direct order from President Roosevelt, convened a hyper-secret council in the basement of the Mar Island Navy Yard. The participants, including a young ascending captain named Hyman Rickover, who would later become the father of the nuclear navy, and physicist Luis Alvarez, a future Nobel laureate, grappled with the impossible choice. Option A: risk shipping the cargo on a repurposed Liberty ship traversing a U-boat-infested route with a high risk of capture or sinking, potentially scattering radioactive materials across the Atlantic. Or Option B: temporarily inter the cargo in a secure facility on the mainland, which would cost valuable time and risk sabotage. Option C: the unthinkable. The decision made that frigid November night became known internally as Operation Golden Sacrifice. The plan was audacious, desperate, and uniquely American in its execution. They would intentionally sink the A cargo in a precise, designated deep-water trench just outside the Golden Gate, to be recovered only after the war was won. The execution of the sacrifice. The vessel chosen for the sacrifice was the SS Carthage, a heavily modified but aging cargo freighter used primarily for ballast testing. Its last mission was to become a time capsule of America's most precious and dangerous secrets. Under the cover of a massive pre-dawn fog bank on November 18, 1944, the A cargo was loaded onto the Carthage. The loading process itself was a marvel of early radiation safety, involving specialized crews and makeshift shielding. The crates were not simply placed, they were bolted to the keel within a custom-built, hermetically sealed, titanium-reinforced compartment that was engineered to withstand the colossal pressures of the deep ocean floor. Key details of the sinking. The depth. The Carthage was sailed to the Pioneer Canyon, a deep-sea trench approximately 50 miles west of the Golden Gate, where the water depth exceeds 10,000 feet, over 3,000 meters, well beyond the reach of 1944 submarine or salvage technology. The scuttling operation. The scuttling operation was overseen by Rickover himself. The Carthage was purposefully riddled with explosive charges not only to sink it rapidly, but also to implode the vessel around the titanium compartment, essentially sealing the dangerous cargo in a coffin of twisted steel and hull plating. The cover story. The official Navy log for the Carthage was falsified. It stated the vessel was lost to a sudden, unexplained engine room detonation while transporting standard, non-classified munitions off the Oregon coast. All crew involved in the direct loading and scuttling, a total of 47 men, were immediately and permanently reassigned to remote, classified posts in the Aleutian Islands, effectively vanishing from the public record. The Carthage and its billion-dollar secret settled into the black, crushing depths, a ghost guarding the future of the American atomic age. The post-war aftermath and the Cold War recovery. The war ended, the bombs were dropped, and the new atomic age dawned. But the secret of the Carthage and the A cargo remained. Recovery was not just a matter of salvaging money, it was a race against the Soviet Union. The materials in the Pioneer Canyon included key prototypes that could accelerate the American nuclear fleet, Rickover's ultimate goal. The birth of modern deep-sea exploration. The original salvage plan was deemed impossible with 1945 technology. The challenge prompted an unprecedented injection of military funding into oceanographic research, laying the groundwork for many technologies that would later define Silicon Valley. The development of sonar mapping. To locate a target at 10,000 feet, the Navy commissioned the development of high-resolution multi-beam sonar arrays, a quantum leap from wartime ASW, anti-submarine warfare, equipment. Project Trieste. The effort to recover the cargo directly contributed to the research that led to the development of the bathyscaphe Trieste, the vessel that would ultimately reach the bottom of the Challenger Deep. Robotics and manipulators. The most profound effect was the demand for remotely operated vehicles, ROVs, capable of operating at extreme depths. The research conducted by Stanford University and the newly formed SRI International, Stanford Research Institute, for the Navy to solve this problem led directly to foundational work in robotics, hydraulics, and remote computing that catalyzed the growth of the Northern California Technology Corridor. In 1952, after 8 years of silent, continuous effort, a highly classified recovery operation known as Project Argonaut was launched. Using the first-ever deep-sea tethered submersible equipped with prototype hydraulic manipulator arms, the Navy successfully and secretly raised the titanium-reinforced capsule. The mission was a success. The materials were intact. The unforeseen legacy. The uranium and the technical schematics were immediately routed into the burgeoning nuclear reactor program, but the true legacy was not the cargo itself, it was the extraordinary effort required to recover it. The necessity of Operation Golden Sacrifice and Project Argonaut had created the deep-sea technology industry. It established the technological foundation for modern oil and gas exploration and deep-sea telecommunications. It funded the Silicon Valley precursors, the massive military spending channeled into Stanford and SRI for acoustic mapping, remote computing, and robotics provided the critical seed money and intellectual challenges that catalyzed the growth of the Northern California Technology Corridor.